most of the components from the IIS suite.
Excellent.
Hi, my name is Dikpal. I'm working as a senior developer in Prolifix. I work on data stage, SSIS, ETL stuff, basically.
Excellent. Where are you guys located, by the way?
Myself, Dikpal, we are located in India. Gangadhar, we are in India.
All of you on the team here, or some of you in US?
No, most of them in US, I would say.
Very good, as I assume your customers in US, yep.
Yeah, so Ashish, instead of people talking over each other, why don't you go down the list telling people to introduce themselves?
Yeah, sure. Varun, can you introduce yourself?
What is that, Ashish? I'm sorry?
Can you give an introduction of yourself? Yeah.
Hey, hi everyone. This is Varun Madula. I'm onshore in the US, and I'm a technical architect in Prolifix, and I focus mainly on data governance aspects. Usually IBM related, but also some of Informatica related data governance aspects as well.
Okay, thanks, Varun. Mike?
Hey everyone, I'm Mike Hasty. I'm the Chief Technology Officer for Prolifix. I'm based in Philadelphia. I do not have a background in information management, but I do have a live customer who is talking about making their own IGC using SharePoint. And so I was invited to this meeting to see why they should not do that.
Very good point. Very good, Mike.
Komal?
Hi, this is Kamal Bilbao. I'm a technical lead. I'm working with clients to help implement DG, and I'm primarily working with IGC.
Thanks, Kamal. Dev?
Hi, David Olson here with a data architect with Prolifix. I guess I kind of work with everything ETL. Usually majority of IBM-based ETL stuff, but sometimes Informatica and others, but usually IBM-based.
Thanks, Dev. Chuck?
Yeah, I'm a senior consultant with Prolifix. I work with Quality Stage, Information Analyzer, and Data Stage.
Okay, thanks, Chuck. Vinay?
Yeah, hi, this is Vinay. I'm working on the ETL data stage and working on this IGC part. So that is a previous project is the ABS. I was handling the IGC stuff. So that's all.
Okay, thanks Vinay. Gangadhar?
Hi, I'm Gangadhar Ragam. I'm a senior software engineer. I work for the Informatica.
Okay, thanks Gangadhar. Okay, so last, Ravi Teja.
Hi, this is Ravi Teja. I'm offshore team working on Informatica.
Okay. So John, question. I think we have covered everyone. So we can move to the next steps.
Excellent. All right. So John, you're gonna record it, or you're already recording, or?
Yes, I am already recording, so we're all set.
Very well. So first, I'd like to welcome everybody to this session. I understand John is going to conduct that for the next 3 or 4 days at the same time every morning, and I think it's going to be an hour.
It's an hour and a half, the same time, and it's Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday, just so we have it.
Very well. Very well. Excellent. So I just wanted to give you a little bit of background before diving into the deep technical stuff of exactly the purpose of this software, and frankly a little bit of who we are as well, although you might already know a lot of that anyway. So basically, Meta Integration is the metadata component provider pretty much to everybody around. That includes the IBM you're very familiar with, but that includes the the Informatica that includes SAP, SAS, a lot of these different software are using our model bridge components inside. And when we say that, we really have two types of components. There is the model bridge component, and there is the full metadata management solution. So today, if you pick most, if not 90% of the metadata management solution out there, including IBM Information Governance Catalog, but also Informatica MM or the new Informatica Claire. If you pick SAP information, how do we call it? Information server also, or BOMM, Business Object Metadata Management, SAP, even smaller vendors like Idera, Irwin, all this basically, they develop their metadata management solution, but for the metadata harvesting, they use our components inside. Part of the reason it's because we go in great level of detail of lineage. You know, for your information, even Informatica metadata management solution now is using meta integration for the lineage from Power Center. Why? Simply because we have a compilers and parsers of virtually any type of SQL, and when you go inside Informatica, we can uncork some complex transformation that are in languages that do not even belong to Informatica. So yes, in life we do full emulator debuggers of all these ETLs for every tool. Every ETL out there, every BI tool, every data modeling tool, basically all type of metadata harvesting. We also have a full metadata management solution, which is rebundled, repackaged for some other vendors. For example, the full Oracle Enterprise Metadata Management Solution, which competes with IBM IGC, is not just our bridges, but it's the full metadata management itself. Same with, let's say, talent metadata management is actually fully our software. So a lot of those who came later in the game OEM'd everything from us. Those who've been there before, like IBM and Informatica, developed their own MM product. Now, although they have an OEM agreement with us, they don't necessarily supply or want to provide support on every tool we have. So they often enable a subset of our tool to their customers. And that's what brought you guys in the picture. IBM IGC, for example, they do not provide support for third-party ETL coming to their software. They only provide the input from data stage, and in fact not any data stage, only the data stage that is based on information server that is used by IGC. We can support, for example, any version of data stage coming in because we don't use IIS. We have our own data stage parser to bring it in. So therefore, for example, in a given IGC, we can put a very old and a brand new data stage coming in. But again, the primary use case here, and that's where you got in, was to bring third-party ETL inside your software. So as a metadata component provider, we do not have any marketing, we do not have any sales, we are purely an engineering shop exclusively working with OEM agreements with pretty much all OEM, all DI, BI vendors, you know, same with you know, like inside IGC, for example, the import from Cognos, even if it belongs from IBM, we provide that to them. So you are pretty much a newcomer in an area which is different than the vendors of DI or BI or MM product. You're coming to help all of them to be able to bring the metadata they don't want to support into their tool. And that's why we created the need of developing something called the Prolifix Model Bridge. And what we're going to show you, and a big part of what we're going to show you, is how you're going to build this Prolifix Model Bridge. So understand that our OEM agreement, we bundle inside. So the license agreement is the one of a customer. When we are inside IMAM or IGC, that's how it works. We are also, I forgot to say, the bridges are not used just for harvesting. They also used for conversions in some tools. For example, if you take popular data modeling tool like Irwin or IBM Data Architect, the import-export inside is also our software. So it's not just metadata harvesting, it's also implementing the import-export feature within their tool. But nobody has the MIMB UI inside. It's just a wizard, and then they have their own UI. For you guys, we're providing you with the user interface and the software. Now we're going to rebrand that user interface as your product, as it's going to be your product, your license to you. I didn't really prepare slides for that, but I do have some of the extract of the, of the agreement, but I will prepare a slide for this properly at some point. Let me find this right now. I think it's this. So these are the typical use cases that we're looking at, is to import from data stage, Power Center, SSIS, ODI, OWB, Talent DI, pretty much any DI tool into IGC. I know a lot of you are experts in data stage. I heard a little bit of Power Center, but hopefully you have good expertise in all these tools to bring it in. So we do not provide the teaching or technology transfer how to use the ETL tool. We assume our partners know how to do that. We just explain you how to import it and provide it to the other tool. We can do more than ETL. A lot of people are using scripts, and we're pretty good at, you know, harvesting Teradata, SQL, BTEC pastors, Oracle, Hadoop, HiveQL scripts, or SQL Server, all these kind of things inside. You can even have a mapping in Excel. We have a format. We'll talk about that. You know, IBM IGC provides the import from databases, but the way it was done in IBM IGC, it is really the database that were imported as source and target of data stage. It's not really an independent one. So we also have the ability to import these databases simply because we go to a higher level of detail than what IGC can do to bring it in. And that includes, for example, the parsing of a SQL stored procedures that can be in any of these languages. We even have a few more exoteric bridges, such as import from COBOL, Copybook, flat files, MongoDB. We had a little matrix of what is included, what is not included. I will extract this portion of a contract in slides so that you have information you know, over the next days of what are the features. And obviously at this point, all this is to export to IBM IGC. Technically, we can export to some other tools, but some don't let metadata come in. Like Informatica has a little bit more control of bringing metadata in. Also in Claire, the new version, they do have the import from all ETL already included in their system. But a lot of needs, so that's what it is. So what's important in this OEM agreement, I will let John go through his presentation here, but it's all about the Prolifix model bridge. I understood you downloaded the MIMB software and you made it run. But remember that you're acting as a software vendor in this case. It's Prolifix software as a vendor. You used to resell software like DataStage or IGC. But here we're talking about one of the first branded Prolifix products. It is called Prolifix Model Bridge. So in other words, your customers must not know about meta integration. Your customers will not download from meta integration the same way the IBM customers or the Informatica customers do not download from meta integration. It's all done directly from your site. Okay, so one of the first things we need to do is to help you not only install the software, but fabricate the Prolifix Model Bridge software. So, you know, obviously you're going to learn how to use Google Drive. It may sound easy, but we've seen already that a lot of the basics people get confused. So for example, using a Chrome with multiple accounts so that you directly do that as Prolifix and get the software. I do that all the time. And my website, you see I've got a lot of my partners because I got plenty of accounts, and I can pretend to be Prolifix for a second, and when I log as Prolifix at metaintegration.info, I got a bunch of access to the Prolifix software. Where do I get it? The support, a lot of the training that John is going to do for you in great detail. But the important thing to remember here is, again, it's a Prolifix software. So the way it works, it's pretty straightforward. You will download the current application, whatever version it is, and we have a version for Windows, we have a version for Linux. Then on top of that, you will unzip with overwrite the cumulative patch. You will do include the Prolifix customization. We prepared some for you for the look and feel, but you will need a lot more to be done. You need to remove our license and include your own license. So these are the type of files to customize to do that. And once you're done, then you're going to repackage it as a Prolifix product, which is basically renaming the root directory from Meta Integration to Prolifix Model Bridge, and then rezip it as a PMB, for example, version 910 of that date for Windows. So these are the kind of things that John will go through to make sure you understand that. So Prolifix will provide both centralized building for your customers, where the customers can download, and also centralized first level support. So they come to you and they say, you know, I got this job in DataStage or Informatica and it doesn't import or it doesn't export to IGC. So then you will do your first level support obligation, collect the log, collect the metadata, the XML file or whatever is needed, reproduce it, doesn't work, you will create a support ticket on our system. So that's what the training of this week is about. Of course, the training will also include making sure you understand how to use the product, the user interface. Remember that it includes a nice little analyzer. And then we'll have advanced session on, you know, how ETL is visualized in our software and exported to IGC. Any high-level questions before I pass it to John for the rest of the 2 weeks? I might come a little bit on other mornings to kind of, I will extend that slide deck so that you have a big picture of what this is about in general, you know, summary slides that we'll give you. But I can entertain any questions you have before John dives in.
I have a couple of questions, Christian, if that's okay. This is Mike.
Sure.
If we have a scenario where the client is using the Prolifix Model Bridge and they change to a different endpoint, they don't use IGC anymore, they move over to the Meta model or one of the other tools, would we sign a new agreement with you guys with a different endpoint target in it, or what would we do in order to facilitate the move by the client?
Who is asking the question?
This is Mike HT, the CTO.
Okay, hi Mike.
Hey.
So right now the agreement is to IGC. As you know, we see the problem with the metadata management product is that we have the import bridges, but many of them then pull the metadata from our neutral model to their system. There are cases where we have an export to their system. That is the case of IGC. We actually produce some files that are then loaded by IGC. In the case of some other products like Informatica, for example, there is no such thing as an export bridge to Informatica. They use our SDK to read metadata from us. So in other words, currently they have exclusive control of who can bring metadata into Informatica. So they have, it's called XConnect on their side. they have three types of XConnects. They have the native XConnect, and we're talking about the old product they're replacing, Informatica MM. And these are basically calling our products. Then they have Universal XConnect, for which they're not fully supported yet. And this is still provided by their technology. Basically, you cannot push to them. It's them receiving. So they would have to enable it on their side. So there are some technical and legal thing that we have to do to make it happen. For us, we're neutral. It doesn't matter. Others, we have absolutely no problem going to them, but there are some technical challenging, in particular with two of them. One is Informatica and SAP, where it's push versus pull technology that is the challenge.
Yeah, it sounds more legal than technical. So it sounds to me like what you're saying is you're neutral. You're in the middle. You know how to talk from any source to any target almost. But for contractual reasons, most of the vendors will let you take data from the outside and bring it into their tool. They don't really want you taking it out of their tool and putting it into somebody else's tool, right?
Well, there are two aspects. There are two aspects. Yeah, there is the aspects that this is extremely powerful. So sometimes the metadata that are coming from MIMB into their software. For example, I know in SAP license agreement, if you use SAP MM, SAP BOMM, and you bring data stage inside, you cannot extract it on the other side. But what I was talking was different, is some people want to have control of these bridges as they're making money on these bridges as well, you know. And it's not even legal in terms of whether it's legal or not legal. It's almost like a license protection. But some of them are evolving, you know, like Informatica. We're looking at developing a custom export to them that bypasses the system, but, you know, working with them, not bypassing in like trying to circumvent any system, working with them, you know, from if we can help them push this metadata from other tool. And we had talked to them about you for that. So right now the situation is the real market right now where there is demand coming on a regular basis is to IGC, definitely. So there are no technical limitation on our side. It's more control of the vendors of what they want to do or not want to do from a third party. But like many of them not having access to be neutral, you guys are like us, neutral. So Informatica doesn't want to support an import from data stage because data stage is a competing tool to them. So they don't want to have to deal with that. They'd be happy to work with you. But I'm going to keep that conversation offline, as it's not very technical. And let's focus, because from the usage of the Model Bridge product, it's exactly the same, independently of what you import, what you export. Everything you will learn is perfectly symmetrical from that perspective.
Okay, that's fair. All right.
Very good. So I'm going to let John dive in, and I promise that this week on my side, I'll produce a few more slides that are more high level of a big picture of what we're trying to solve, a little bit outside the broken path of the implementation technology. I think my clear message here is to really put you guys in the shoe of you are a software vendor at that point, not a reseller. And so, you know, it includes a couple of thinking to do. So that's all cool. I'll let John take over.
All right, thanks a lot, Christian. Actually, you had left it open for questions, so is there anyone else with questions right now, or should I just jump ahead? I guess not. Okay, so excellent.
And
all right.
John, I checked in that slide in SVN if you want to open it, and it's time for you to show where it is. It's where you put your agenda, actually.
Excellent. That sounds good to me. That sounds good to me. All right. So,
thank you.
Yep. All right. So let's get hands-on in terms of connecting in, making sure that everything is set up. I'll go ahead and walk through that simply to have the have it as part of this training. That was the original understanding. I hope you aren't too bored by that. But then, of course, what we're going to do is look at the implications of packaging the software for customers, because this is not a process that you will be using for customers themselves. All right. The agenda I had sent out a while ago, I'll go ahead and open it up. And so today what we are going to talk about is, of course, being able to make sure that you guys are all connected, and both to download of software, but also to our knowledge base, CITS, JIRA, all that wonderful stuff. And also we'll put the software together while we're here today. Let me shrink this down and go out to Google. Now, one of the first things we highly recommend, I mean, you know, it's strange to say use a browser, but we do use Google Drive as our method for sharing both software as well as updates and that sort of thing. So in order to do that well, it's best to use Google because, of course, you can set up different profiles for different users. And basically, to do that, once you have set up, actually, I don't have a particular Google without at least one of these set up, but you can sign into Chrome, and that allows you to then build up these users. You can sign in as a specific user. I will do that. Normally what I would do, first time in, I would come in and add a person, and that person then would have some kind of look and a name and that sort of thing. And let's go ahead and look at what that looks like. I'm going to say Prolifics 2 because I already have one, and we'll just do that because it doesn't really matter. All right. So when you're in here, then one of the first things you will want to do is sign in so it can recognize who you are. And we have set up users, not surprisingly, since we use Chrome as the way that we distribute the software and exchange files and all that stuff. Now, the information, I had sent it out some time ago, but I have it here in Word format. You will use the Google Drive account credentials, and these are the credentials to use for that particular site. Let me go ahead and just copy rather than type, always best. And here we go, paste, and that's my email, and then the password is here. Okay, so once Chrome identifies who I am, you know, the synchronization, all that wonderful stuff, and it will suddenly update presentation, etc., for the particular user. So as you can see, we have actually several areas, and let me find out if I'm at Prolifics, or I am Prolifics. Okay, good. There we go. Okay. So being Prolifics, you will see there are a lot of commands we've already set up for you, shortcuts to particular areas that you want to work with. So as I said, when looking at our site, we basically have download access, so being able to get software, being able to get updates to the software, customization packages for it, and also to exchange. This is something where you can also post metadata. So if you have very large files that you need to exchange with us, they go out there. We have MIMB support, a support site, which is really the first place to go when you're going to look at accomplishing the first level support, which is your obligation, and also when preparing to send a ticket for second level support. And of course, that is based on our JIRA. So let's go ahead and look at all of these different pieces. The first one, as I said, the download, we have the Google Drive. And you can see I've actually identified two places for the Google Drive. We have Shared With Me and My Drive. Shared With Me is actually an area that is read-only to you, okay? It's something that we update. And within this area, you will find MIMB, And within MIMB, then you will see all the different folders that we have with different information. In this case, MIMB, OEM, and MIMB are where you're going to look for software. And then we also have information about the SDK, which you guys don't have to worry about so much. We do have model samples. So for example, if you're looking for some ETL samples or something you want to play around with, we do provide all of those out there for people. You can see that it's a zip. And then also different third-party drivers for JDBC. These are drivers that we know work well. It's what we test with. As you can imagine, there are more out there. It's, again, since you're mostly talking about ETL, it's not a major issue, but this is the sort of thing that we provide. Keep in mind that this is not for distribution to customers, purely for validation, because we don't have the licenses to do that. Okay. Finally, there's the knowledge base. There's actually two places that you'll find it. One here is in MIMB itself, and you'll see that there are a lot of documents associated with working with these different tools. So for example, if we look at one of these let's see, tools, it's probably under DI. There we go, Meta Integration for DI, and you can see DI support, and it will talk about connecting in to different, actually that's a nice overview list, but I'll wait on that one. And let's see, Meta Integration for DI, let's go there. And I see ODI, I'm surprised it's a little limited. We should have had Informatica, etc. I guess I'll have to see where those went. But haven't been out to this particular location a lot, but you'll see also there's another way to get to it via the web. And for each of these, we have outlines of how to get at information in these tools, etc. You know, different lessons learned, etc. All available for different tools, and it's a good place to go just for generic information about the different tools we connect into. Then, finally, as I was mentioning, the places you're most likely to go. So, for example, MIMB. And under MIMB, in this case, it's the different versions of the software. You're on the current version, which is 9.1.0, and this is where the software is. So basically, what we generally provide here is a Windows zip, a Linux TBZ2, so you can untar and compress, and also a cumulative patch. These two, as you've probably already seen, are mostly unzip or uncompress, untar, etc. And so once you've done that, there's really no major installation process. This is not an installer in that sense. Instead, it unzips and it will run. There is a setup package. We'll look at it, and it allows you to customize a few things about the product. Then the cumulative patch, and let me just show you what that looks like really quickly, is another zip, and it's a collection of the different folders for which there were updates since the GA. Okay, so basically what that means is MIMB was released sometime in the past, GA, on April 24th, as you can see here. And then, since then, we have been creating a single cumulative patch that has all of the updates. You don't have to worry about getting the precise update and applying a bunch of patches in order or anything like that. It is all cumulative. It is all simply use the one with the latest date, and that's all that will be provided out here. We do not provide the historical ones because, of course, they are included. Also, we do not test with just some patches applied and some not. Instead, it's always the latest cumulative patch. That's what we test and certify for, and that's what we expect you to use. It is a simple unzip, and we'll do that in just a little bit. Okay, so to download these things, fairly straightforward, of course. Simply right-click, download, double-click, you know, all that wonderful stuff. You'll get this message just about every time because files are large enough. Google wants to check for viruses, but of course, not a big deal. We will download 2 packages here. This is the first one, and then the second one is the zip to cumulative patch. So there we go. Hey, and it's small enough to scan for viruses. Perfect. Okay, so now while those, yes, please.
Should we ask you questions as you go?
As we go, yes.
I noticed that you guys were using version 9.1.1. How far behind your version do we think we'll be?
Well, actually, 9.1.1 is trunk for us, so it's under development. It's purely dev.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So the latest GA is 9.1.0. You're at it.
Okay.
Yep. Okay. So that's those 2 pieces of software to download. There's one other component that we need to download, and as you know, MIMB is a generic package that can be customized. We have a bunch of customization in there. It's instead of shared with me, which of course is the read-only area where everyone who uses MIMB has access to. Instead, this is specific to Prolifics, so it is placed on my drive. You can also, of course, when you come in, you can go to my drive here and you'll get to the same place. And within my drive then, you will see all the different pieces of information that we've been collecting. You see the videos, training materials, all that stuff, presentations we've been sharing. This is where, and XFR for being able to exchange information back and forth. This is where you will go to exchange information. In other words, for example, you create a ticket and you say, put a big file out on Google and just mention where it is, and then we'll go and grab it. But in Prolifics MIMB, we have a file which is conf.zip, and this file is all the special configuration information for Prolifics itself. So for MIMB to look like Prolifics, so the Prolifics model bridge. And actually, if we quickly take a look at what's inside, you'll see that again, one too far. It's a set of folders. It will simply unzip. It will go into the configuration area. It will specify what bridges are available. It will also provide look and feel in terms of images and text and so forth. So very straightforward what it does. All right, download that, and I am done with all the downloading. Now, before I package it together, we'll do that in just a little bit. I want to finish up the introduction to our site and how to use it, etc. And this is actually a location I haven't put a shortcut to, but I'll do that right now because it obviously is a useful site. And this is our support site. All right. Thought we were going there. Oh, I lost the H when I was copying. There we go. Copy and paste does not solve all ills if you can't select properly. Okay, let me go ahead and put a shortcut to this, and there we are. So now we have that. Now this is laid out as a series of steps. Okay, basically encouraging you to first make sure that you grab the latest documentation, and of course you have the latest software. Within here you will see that several things are provided. One is supported tools. This is of course an exhaustive list. This is not a list for your customers. The list of supported tools for you is much narrower. Obviously the target right now is IGC, so that's the only real export side except for some debug options for the meta integration format. And then, of course, import from these ETL tools. So when you're looking at this, though, you can simply perform a search because there are hundreds of entries out there. And then for these, you will see the particular bridges. So, for example, we have Informatica and we have Informatica Power Center. You can see that there's 2 different imports, one from a file, the XML file format that PMRep produces from Informatica, and then also the Power Center repository format. So in other words, interrogating the repository, downloading those XML files, and then parsing them. In each case, when you click on this link, then you will get the same type of help information. This is all the tooltips that we provide within the tool itself. So when you're running an MIMB and you look at the help, you'll see the same information. But it's a nice way to provide it electronically. Here you can simply reference it. You don't have to start up the software. You have all the information here. In addition, there's actually a couple other pieces of information that you won't see in the help in the tool. One is data type mappings. So it actually identifies how things map between different data types. You do have to pick and choose and specify. So we will want to look at, for example, Informatica, and go out here. And Informatica Power Center, let's say we're doing DB2 types, and then we want to see how it maps over to the IBM Common Model. Actually, we should go to, let's go down here. Yeah, that is it. Oh, that is what I wanted. All right, so where was I? IBM, I just had it. Why am I blind? There we go. All right, so
in the middle.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I just found it. So anyway, so this is how things map. You know, just pull down and then see how those things map together. Finally, for each of these, of course, we have the usual sections that you expect. We have the general specifications for the bridge. This is very useful. Please always do read this. When you're trying to figure out a problem, there's a lot of nuggets in here, and oftentimes they don't really make sense until you run into an issue. You will find usually a Q&A section associated with these bridges, and one in particular, which is support, which is to explain how to, for example, provide backups when you have an issue and you need the source metadata to reproduce it. And then, of course, the usual help that you see in the tool, explaining all the individual bridge parameters for these, and then the bridge mapping, which is fairly high level, but nevertheless shows you a level of completeness in terms of how much is actually mapped. And you can see that it's also split out by the particular type of metadata. So for mappings, and then over here with the, let's find it specifically, for data stores, and then even further for the workflow. So you can see the different portions of those of that metadata and how it is mapped. And actually, one other thing to mention while we're here is that this is in reference to terminology within the source tool, and then common terminology that we refer to as the meta-integration repository metamodel. So for example, the fact that columns come over as connection data attribute, then you would look on the IGC side to see how connection data attribute goes into IGC, etc. So that's how you use those particular pages. And as I said, you can have, there's one for all the different tools, and in fact multiple. So for example, with Informatica, remember we had a repository connectivity example. In this case, there's actually a lot more in the help section because there are more issues that can come up, obviously, with a live connection into a repository. And also you can see here with this frequently asked questions that, and again, actually within the support, in other words, how do I create a backup? Again, good information because, of course, you won't just have an XML file. However, reading down further, it's always worth it to read everything here. There is a miscellaneous parameter that allows you to actually dump whatever XML this bridge captured, and you can attach it to an issue. So it's a very nice option. That way you don't have to go up there and and try to grab the information, the source metadata, it will go ahead and it's this one, -p. It will go ahead and grab that information for you, put it in a folder, and then you can simply attach that, or if you're trying to reproduce an issue. All right. So that's the start of support. As I was saying, this is step one. A couple other things to look at when we're out here. One is known limitations. I would suggest you familiarize yourselves with that. In particular, in terms of, for example, parsing limitations of the import bridges. Also, conversion of transformation expressions, and definitely the idea that people tend to not understand that when you're importing from one tool and exporting out to another, you are reverse engineering and forward engineering. And so there are certain limitations to consider, and this is really worthwhile reading. I'm not going to go through it here, obviously, but it's worthwhile reading. We have the README. This also is available for each version. Well, the README, of course, has all the version history in it. So if I click on release changes, I will see, for example, new features, what has changed, updated, etc. Obviously, the things we would want to look at are Informatica, IGC, data stage, that sort of thing. And this covers a lot more in terms of bridges, but it gives you a good idea of what has been added with each release. Also, as the next release gets closer, we will have an entry for it, and right now we're thinking 9.2.0, but whatever, and it will identify features that we expect to see in the next major release. So you can look for those out here too. In addition, of course, the README is going to have instructions as to system requirements, installation, all that sort of thing. So from here you can see, for example, what is required in terms of a machine, and also any particular software requirements. There really aren't. We have everything built in. It's just a Windows environment or Linux. And don't go too far back in terms of Windows, but you can see that we mentioned 7 and up. And then, of course, the Java runtime environment is bundled. You know that's all available, Tomcat, etc. So everything's really built in. Don't have to worry about software. But it does have mention, of course, of minimal machine. 4 gigabytes, 8 is a real minimal machine. I will tell you that if you start harvesting from Informatica repositories, in other words, you start trying to grab an entire folder, or maybe, well, anyway, let's just say you're going to do it on that scale. It is quite conceivable that you will need more memory simply to parse the XML. And of course, you will get memory errors if you haven't specified enough. In addition, related to that, and I'll go back to that option here. So let me go back to my support page, and again to my supported tools and Informatica. It is important to note when you're using these bridges that, in fact, running them, that same miscellaneous parameter, and this is true of pretty much all the bridges, has an option for additional memory. So here we have -m and then how much ever memory, and this is very, very critical. So it allows you to specify 8, 12, 25. We've seen 24, 28 gigabytes needed for some extremely large XML files. And keep in mind, in fact, Informatica can't even parse them back in itself in the 32-bit version. It needs the 64-bit to do it. And but nevertheless, it produces them. So we have to be able to parse them. And so I just want to show you how this interrelates. Here, it's specifying that you might need a lot more memory. In fact, when you do run those bridges, it's very possible that they will, but there's only minimum requirements specified here. And so just, keep that in mind, and to set customer expectations and so forth. And then finally, we have installation. As you know, it's a snap, it's an unzip. Now you want to make sure that in fact it is precisely that simple for your customers. And so that's why we're going to package it, and we'll see how to do that in just a little bit ahead of time so that they have the latest patches and they have the customization files. Okay, then in addition, in the help, let's go back one. One more. There we go. Okay, so that's step one. Step two is our knowledge base. These are all articles. So we have identified certain topics that are of particular importance, and it's something that you can sign into, etc. Now, I'm just going to sign in this myself here. Okay. And let's see. Okay. So within here, depending on what sources you're looking at and where you're trying to export to, there's a lot of useful articles. Now, keep in mind, as I was saying, it's a little bit more limited in terms of, well, or it's much broader than what you will need to do. But in particular, for example, if we have Informatica, but this is really Informatica with Excel, keep in mind that it's nevertheless some very useful information about how Informatica works, etc. I don't even think we have a data stage specific article. So you can see there's some information. I suspect this is not as pertinent to you guys as a group that was using all the bridges. And then finally, we actually have the JIRA system. And we already have a shortcut to this, to JIRA up here in the shortcuts here. I went ahead and put it in. It's CITS, which stands for a Customer Issue Tracking System. It's based on Atlassian JIRA. And let's connect. Odd that it's being slow, but there it is. What can I say? While I'm waiting for this, for some reason it's being slow. Any questions? Wow, it's quiet.
Yeah, I don't think there is any at this time, but
Yep. Well, I'm surprised that this is taking its time. I'll come back to this one, and what we will do is finish the download now, and or the assembly of the product. Christian had mentioned that he put his slide. I can go from the slide. I also had included these steps as part of that same email that had all the connectivity information, but that's okay. We'll use the slide. It will be useful. Okay, so here we are. So basically what we are trying to do is assemble a package that will simply be unzipped by customers. Of course, what we want is either Windows or Linux. I will not do the Linux example here, but as you can imagine, what you will do is, untar and zip, or untar and compress, and for each of these pieces. Understand cumulative patches are always zips. So however you want to unzip, you can do it before you move it over to Linux, or you can use a utility on Linux, your choice. But they're always provided as zips. They work for both. And also the conf.zip is the same sort of way, your customization. Yes.
I assume, John, you can't apply the cumulative patch while the system is running.
You actually, interestingly enough, in most cases you can, but of course one wants to stop because you're going to have to restart anyway. A lot of the bridges really, they're just invoked on demand. So, if they're updated, it doesn't really matter. You know, nothing's holding it up and it won't complain. It'll just be the next time you invoke the bridges, you'll get the new ones, but it's best to restart, obviously.
Okay,
yes, please.
Yeah. Next question, will the Linux version run on Macs or no?
On Mac, you said?
Well, Mac is really Linux, so...
Yes. No, I understand. We have not tested that scenario. And so, you know, we don't really support it. Of course, Mac, I believe, has a lot of people actually are using Macs with Windows emulators to run, you know, the Windows side. I have not seen anyone do a Linux emulator, but I know Mac has it. Yes, Christian, you're going to say.
No, it works if you know what you're doing, but most problem are not, most people are really not good at Linux the way they think they are, but that's a separate story. The bigger problem here is we're talking about, this is not Word or PowerPoint to run on one machine or another machine. It is about moving metadata from one big server to another big server. Whether you want to go through a small MacBook in the middle or an iPhone or an Android is always a possibility, but you're going to need, in many cases, a lot of memory, and, you know, it can be done. The other thing also, and we'll get on that later, not all bridges are running on Linux. Some bridges are running, only the Java-based bridges are running equally on Linux and Windows, provided you can get a JVM that can execute both. Because we try to be only written in Java. The problem is we have a lot of bridges that read from COM API that only work on Windows. So most people, most customers who do that, because they have a lot of tools that require COM API, they install it on a Windows machine. This way they no longer have to worry if it's a Windows only bridge on input kind of thing. But you know, technically it's pure Java.
So in my head, I don't know that we really need to go down this path anyway. A lot of the IM&A team do have Macs, but to be honest, you can get a Windows on AWS instance for, you know, a few, you know, $50 a month. If they want to do live demos, maybe that would be better anyway. So that's fine.
That's fine either way. And I know a lot of people, actually MacBooks are now becoming popular over Windows books for most engineers, which is really, really good. But in any case, for doing a lot of the demos they do, you know, if you get a business object client or any of those, they run only on Windows. They often have a Windows VM on their MacBook. But technically, you know, to say that you are right, it is a pure, when it's a pure Java application, if you have your JVM and you know what you're doing, you can run it on any machine with a proper JVM, that's for sure.
Yep. All right. So let's go ahead and follow these steps and make this happen. So I was downloading all of these pieces here. Let's see. I don't know why it's not jumping to my other window, but I'll just click on it. All right. So Atlassian. Oh, someone restarted M-I-T-I-Day. That's all right. It's there. Okay. So actually, before we finish the download, let's just finish the orientation and look at our site. Okay. So this is the last step. In other words, this is the last place to go after you've exhausted those other opportunities for gathering information, in particular making sure you're using the latest software, making sure that you've looked through all the bridge documentation, etc., and the knowledge base. We then have this last step, which is to investigate for current issues that might be like your problem, and then of course report an issue if that's a need. Basically, this system is where you report those issues. It's also where you investigate what's already been done. So for example, we have issues that are currently assigned to Prolifics, issues that are currently assigned to MIDI support, in other words, being worked on. And then finally, at the bottom, we have all issues if you want to see everything that has happened between meta integration and Prolifics. And then we also have the MIMB knowledge base, which allows you to search and see where issues have occurred in the past. So for example, let's just do Informatica here. And you will see actually quite a few issues out here related to that particular scenario. So an exception occurred, blah, 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 blah. So these kinds of things, and in fact, you know, searching for something like that, you can oftentimes find exactly the answer that you needed related to that just very quickly in this system. But should you need to create an issue, then this main dashboard that we had up front, you can see that there is a create, and of course also when you're looking at issues and working on them, like for example the issue surrounding Prolifics training, I'll click on it. Simply click on the issue, it'll show you all the information about it. In general, there is usually a description of some kind. This one didn't really have much. It does have the agenda here, and then of course also discussion. You can see where we figured out which attendees, etc. So very straightforward system for those people who are going to be creating tickets. Keep in mind it should not be everyone at Prolifics. It should be limited to a key set of players. You are providing first level support, so you are centralizing to 2 or 3 people who will then create tickets here. And that's generally how that process works. However, you will probably want to provide people access to this knowledge base, and so the user ID and password for it. Again, that information was provided via the email that I had sent out a while before. I won't share it here again, but you can assign out who you want to have access to the system. All right. You've already been down the road of creating tickets. I'm not going to get into that. Let's finally finish our download and get this done. So we can see the 3 different components that we downloaded here. All right. I have all 3 of these guys. Now, generally, in order to create a new package, I'll probably want to do it in some special location. Remember, you can simply unzip in place and then start adding these things. So I'm going to do that here. I'm going to go ahead and say extract, and I'm going to extract to, that's a perfectly good name. And I'm simply putting it in a folder where I'll work. So that's the first step. And looks like it's going to take a minute or so, maybe less, to unzip all this. So as I was saying, we'll go back to this little PowerPoint presentation. As I was saying, we will unzip the current application. You remember the cumulative patch just had a structure in it that was identical to what's in the MIMB application, so we'll unzip on top of that. And then we're going to make sure the configuration files are put in there properly. All right, looks like we're done. So we have MIMB unzipped, so if we look at that folder here, and it's right down here, you will see it creates a meta integration folder, and inside the meta integration folder you will see, again, bin conf, just as what was expected from before. Let's go ahead and now go back and unzip the second part and third part. So basically I'm going to take these 2, copy, and then go back inside and paste it inside the installation. That's how this works. Okay, and then finally, for each of these, and I'll start with the cumulative patch first, I will extract here. Now, if you don't have the extract here option, just extract in place. So in other words, don't give it another folder underneath. Notice it will immediately ask to replace things. I say yes to all. Great. And the same thing is true of conf.zip. Now, also, I don't know if you noticed, but a README file was produced. This will be very useful in your diagnostics. This will tell you the exact version of the tool that you're looking at, including the exact cumulative patch. So as part of, troubleshooting with customers, you may want them to always just send you that README file so that you have that information. Another very useful piece of information is that a subset of the knowledge base that simply has current issues for these patches, so this cumulative patch, the issues associated with it, is sitting here. And if I go back out to my JIRA page, I look for issues, okay, and let's just paste. It will show me all the knowledge base tickets, so in other words, for each of these things that relate to that cumulative patch, in other words, all the patches, and it's only the generic issues that are not specific to particular partners. Many partners have reported things that only apply to their situation, so you don't see knowledge base issues for this. All right. But it's a quick way to be able to look that up when using this system. All right, so that's the README. Let me go ahead and close that. And now I'm going to finish up by, of course, going out here and packaging everything back together. So now what I have is that same MIMB type package, except now what is going on is it has the cumulative patch and it has my conf.zip, all the customization that's out there. As Christian pointed out in the slide, although I wasn't going to discuss it in detail, you may also want to update your license.html and MIDI EULA. Those are in documentation license. I'll show you where these things are. Because, of course, everything in here in documentation is going to look like meta integration. So if you want to update these things.
Yeah, I was going to say on this that I might add, I don't know if I talked to somebody at Prolifix management and legal, and I don't think she did it yet. What I might do is take our license, which is basically, click on license.html, John.
Just double click to view it. Yeah.
So when you click, what you see out there is there is an end user license, you see, and then there is the third party. The third party are the same as when you click on IBM license or when you IGCU and things. But this license refers to MIT. I might do just so that they have something that is not licensed by MIT, I might do as part of a conf.html, I might just replace these two files right now so that even if they don't have yet the final license from them, they have at least a license that is a Prolific license.
Well, that's excellent. Yeah, that'll make it easier.
I'll do that for tomorrow so that at least you get something.
Excellent. That'll make it easier for them. Okay.
Yep.
So let's go back to where we are. So now we have the meta integration packaging, but you want it to be the Prolifix. So, as Christian also suggested, let's go ahead and rename this folder to Prolifix Model Bridge, okay? And let's do that. Well, there it is, paste. And then we can simply zip this up. And we will zip it up into a file that is based on the name. You will probably want to include the patch date in the name. So here was what Christian was suggesting. Let's go ahead and take that. For some reason it's not jumping back to that. There it goes. Okay, so PMB. There we go. And we'll say zip, and we'll say paste. And it was 7/17. All right. And once this is done, you have a package you can provide to your customers. They have a one-step installation process, which is, unzip, and of course, apply a license. 2 steps, excuse me. Okay, so any questions up to this point? obviously, tomorrow what we're going to do is jump straight into the tool. You know, I'll expect that you've gone through all these steps and you have everything ready. Then tomorrow we will start using the tool. We'll import some examples. We'll look at how the tool works. We'll use the analysis capabilities, lineage, all that stuff, and that'll keep us busy for tomorrow's hour and a half.
Sure, John.
Okay.
So John,
yes,
Dipal here. Can you go to the meta integration folder?
Sure. So now, actually, of course, it's the Prolifics model bridge folder.
Yeah.
But yes.
Yeah. Could you please go to readme.txt
yes.
file?
Yes, absolutely.
So since we are changing name everywhere, I mean, it's can you see https MITS metaintegration.com?
Yes, yes, of course. This one. So
yeah,
this right here.
Yeah. So
yeah,
are we planning to change that text too?
He's got a point. So first, don't worry about it. It's true of every OEM partner. There is a lot of meta integration there. We cannot remove it everywhere. Everybody knows it's a meta integration model bridge. So don't worry too much about it. Okay. I would say you can leave it there. Don't worry. Other thing is John forgot to remove the zip file before rezipping. I noticed. So see.
Oh, okay. Sure. Yep.
So.
Yeah, because we don't really need these in here. Yes, you're absolutely right.
So usually my technique is slightly different. Is I kind of put the zip file on the outside, and then when I unzip, I push it inside so that I don't forget to remove them.
That's fine.
Yep. You know, everybody's own way of doing the unzip. Otherwise, don't worry. Meta integration is everywhere. That's true inside the IBM delivery, inside the Informatica delivery, and all of those. It's quite all right. You know, it's just the minimum. And that's pretty much it, you know. For them, I would say when you build the new version and they're not installing a cumulative patch, I would remove this MIMB because who cares? They're just installing the software. I would remove this cumulative patch README at this point if you go inside, John.
Well, the problem is, you know, it's very helpful in terms of knowing
no. The point is,
sure,
a given guy is downloading a new software. If he's applying the patch, it's fair. You know, if deployed application, it's fair for them after unzipping that they got the information inside. But if he's not, if he's starting, it's just downloading the software. He doesn't care that that software was built with proper cumulative patch. He just wants the software, basically.
Well, I understand. I'm just thinking that when they report an issue, if you get this README, the README will tell you, of course, exactly which cumulative patch. The log doesn't tell you that. The log you have to guess, you know, and figure it out.
The log at least tells you which version of a bridge was properly executed, because the guy can have the README file proper, and he forgot to override the libraries.
Sure.
He has a good README file, and the bridges are using old version.
Okay.
I personally never look at it.
Either way.
When we deliver, good point of John is, on your download site, you should have, you know, the full latest version of MIMB ready to go. And if it's a customer, don't make it available to download. Just give it on demand, and that's good enough. And frankly, since it's not an MM product, it's just an application, the guy can just unzip the new one. You don't even have to give him a cumulative patch. You know, it's not like a server. It's really just an application, so that's all right.
Yep.
And also, it doesn't make them jump on a README, which is the wrong README to jump in to start with. The real README for install and everything is inside documentation, obviously.
Yep. So I know today was a bit pedantic. You know, I mean, it's it's steps that seem kind of trivial, but as you can see, it already opened up a bunch of discussion about how you're really going to package this stuff. Let's make sure that, you know, it's done cleanly and consistently every time, and then you know you won't have the problems that arise from having a mess out there. Any other questions before we finish up for today? We'll start again tomorrow, 1 Eastern again, and it'll all be in the tool from here on out. None of this support page stuff.
Okay. I have a question for
Yes.
Ashish. It's not for you guys. Ashish, are we going to continue to use the source location on the Google Drive for our distribution copy, or are we going to put it onto Ignite or something like that for the version we've tested? Are we going to have a goal? Are we going to have a goal copy, or are we going to make them on the fly?
I think we will use the Google Drive we use currently for now,
Okay.
at least till the training is done, and then maybe we can upload it to Ignite or Mike. That would be a better option.
Well, actually, I think the Meta integration guys would probably quite like to check that our build is done right. So putting it out on the Google Drive actually works in two ways, right?
Yep,
So,
that's right.
No. Which Google Drive are you talking about?
So we have the one that you've created for us. We can always
No,
make
but
another folder.
that's ours. That's ours. That's not yours. I thought you were talking about, first of all, the Google Drive. That's the thing. Every email account has a different Google Drive.
Question, it's the one we got it from Robert. So yeah, I mean, maybe you have created that for us.
No, you have only one account with us, which is prolifix@metaintegration.info. This is for us to provide to you. You need a separate place independently of that of you to provide to the customers. You know, I know it's something new for you, but you know, the customers must not come to ours. First of all, this user password that we gave you, Robert 2017, should be kept internal to only a few people.
Correct.
You know, I didn't mention that. And this is like a private secure drive between you and us. Now, what you need, once you have that, you have to make it, first of all, this exercise should be done, what you see in the background, John, if you get back to my slide at the back. This exercise to be performed by one of you guys at support, and then make it available for all of the rest of Prolifix to access, and in a place that customers can also access. Now, customers, sometimes you're going to upload it to their site. You don't necessarily need to have a public download site, okay? You may not have that, and you may not need it because the customers say, you know, please give it to me here. You don't have to jump on a lot of hoops yet, you know.
Yep, we'll discuss it
That's
internally.
right.
You have to discuss it. But we don't need the Prolifix model bridge. You know, we trust you guys. I mean, we cannot verify. You know, you'll know quickly if it's zip. It's a zip and zip. It's basic work. You know.
Agree.
Mike, we will upload it to Ignite for the customers.
All right. Yep. I like that name. Ignite the fire.
Yep. Okay, guys. Thank you for the training.
Okay.
It was good.
Thanks. Yep. Thanks a lot, everyone.
We'll go on tomorrow.
Yep. Okay. Thank you, everyone, for joining.
All right. Thanks. Talk to you then.
Bye. Bye.
Thank you.
Thanks.